I just want to say thank you to Alvin. I hate that this burden has been put on you and that you've had to, we continually have to rip open our wounds and display them for everybody in order to prove that we are worthy of their empathy and thinking of Black people as, human. I sit here as a light-skinned Black woman with tons of privilege. I navigate the white world very well. Unfortunately, the reason I do that is because of being adopted by a white family who was so racist that because they could, told me I was Native American and erased my Black identity from me. I've spent the last years, after decades of running from it because I was so horrified because Black people were the worst and they weren't human. Having to figure out who I am and embrace that identity. And a lot of you know that, a year ago, I actually, found out who my father is and have met my siblings. And it is the first time in my life that I actually know who I am. Unfortunately, I'm also unpacking a lifetime of what I put aside as not experiencing racism, as realizing just how much impact that has had on me. But I am still really fortunate because I can pass. But unfortunately, what that means is that when I speak about being a Black person, I quite often get white people looking at me like I don't deserve that they shouldn't have to see me that way. And I got to tell you that that's racism too. Anybody who says to me, I don't think of you as Black, you don't look Black, are you Black? That's racist. You don't get to define my identity for me. This past week has, and this past week particularly, have completely brought on a lifetime of trauma of dealing with that and watching Black people be dehumanized and murdered over and over again. And the guilt of feeling like I know I'm probably safe from that. But really I'm not. I used to live in the Midwest and I won't go into all the stories. But, the reality is that, as Alvin was saying, people are equivocating all over the place about these protests, and, I understand that the murders are bad, but, property damage isn't good. And, screw property damage. You can replace things, you cannot replace human beings. And the reality is, we are begging you to try to see us as human and to think of us as your children. But the reality is you can't, because in order for this to be dismantled, you have to give up your privilege. This has to come at a cost to white people. And I wish I could hope that white people are going to let go of the stranglehold they have on white supremacy and step back in order to let Black people live. I've experienced at this museum, in particular, a lot of white people, particularly white women, who feel their voice is always essential. When a person of color, a Black person is speaking, feel they need to weigh in, interrupt, and tell us how they feel about what we're saying, validate for us, critique it, type paragraphs of what they think, what they think anti-racism should be, what they think we should be saying. And I gotta tell you, anybody who says, as a white person, what they think anti-racism should say does not know what that means. And I don't care about, what the social contract that y'all have with each other, about what professionalism is, and what respect is, and what kindness is, and what civil is. I do not accept your social contract because it is based in white supremacy and making sure that white people are always at the top. And it was created by you to diminish anybody who challenges you. I do not accept your social contract. And I'm very angry right now. And I'm also angry at, to be honest with you, certain of people that are not Black at this museum who have perpetuated the same kind of white supremacy on other people of color here. Because you don't have to be a white person to perpetuate white supremacy. White people, Black and Indigenous and people of color all the time align themselves with white supremacy because it serves them. Because it serves everybody. I did it for years. My life was so much easier before I realized that I am Black and I need to be Black and that's who I am. It was so much easier. I mean, my soul was being killed, but my life was easier because I didn't have to have these discussions. But I'm also finding out that I surrounded myself with a whole bunch of white people who their friendship, their support was contingent upon my not challenging them and making them comfortable with my not really being Black. And what's happening right now is just a microcosm of what has been happening for hundreds of years to Black people, to Indigenous people. This country was built on the genocide founded on the genocide and colonization and theft of Indigenous people. And it was built on the backs of enslaved, oppressed, traumatized, tortured Black people. And it is still maintained on institutional white supremacy and systemic racism. And so if anybody sitting here thinks that they aren't racist, I would like to know what kind of trick you pulled to have that not happen. And I will also tell you that racism isn't a character flaw. It is implicit. You cannot get away from it. I can't get away from it. But what you do is what matters. How you dismantle that is what matters. How you listen is what matters. If a Black, Indigenous, or person of color is speaking about these things and you are in the room, you need to shut up. Because your opinion and your perspective about something you are not impacted by is irrelevant. I don't care how much you've helped people, because that's the thing, is if your help of people of color is contingent upon your being able to have a voice and your being able to be the good person, you're just perpetuating white supremacy. If it is contingent upon what degree somebody has or what level they've risen to or how professional or articulate or, clean cut they are, you are part of the problem. And I told Alan this already. I'm so glad he's here. I'm sorry that part of the reason I'm glad he's here is because there's another Black person here with more experience than I have that people might take seriously. Not that I don't get taken seriously, but the weight is not there with me. But I don't care that he has a PhD. I'm never going to genuflect to the PhD. It's who you are. I'm really happy that everybody did all that work. And there are a lot of people here, you know, that are brilliant. My boss is brilliant. She's one of the most amazing people I've ever met in my entire life. But it's not because she has a PhD. I don't care that he has a PhD. I don't care what he's achieved. I'm sorry that his value has to be measured by that. I care because the second he walked in the room when we interviewed him, I knew that he was amazing. I knew he was thoughtful. I knew he was creative. I knew he was powerful. So, I think I'm done. All this said, I love all of you. I'm really proud to work for the Burke. I'll be honest. We've been having hard conversations for so much longer than so many other institutions. I can say these things. And sure, there's going to be people here that are shocked and horrified and don't want to talk to me anymore. But I know that most of you, that's not true. I'm proud that we have been working on this for much longer than anybody else, and not anybody else, but we've been working on this. We have a long way to go. But I am proud to be part of this organization that cares so much and doesn't just care, makes good on it. Thank you for your time.